He's your system administrator. He's probably into comic books. And you tremble in fear when you have to hear one of his "what a dummy" looks. Got a virus, lost your password, or you just can't print. In an hour, he'll show up and crouch and squint. Fight to save your files. He might be there all day, but sometimes he just presses caps lock and walks away.
This week's uninvolved and short answer question comes from Anonymous. Anonymous writes, I want to build a Beowulf cluster. How would I go about doing that? Well, Anonymous, if you're asking me how to build your Beowulf cluster, which there are as many ways to build them as there are uses for them, I think this project might be a little out of your depth and you should look for something else to do, honestly. This week's serious and very, very involved question comes from Leonard. Leonard asks, my aunt has a computer and wants me to fix it for her. The only problem is that she lives on the other side of the state. How can I access her computer with remote desktop over the internet? This is a really good one. A lot of people don't realize that remote desktop not only works on the LAN side, but it will also work over the internet. I've done that many times to fix my own dad's computer, and he lives 160 miles away. What I'm going to be using for this is screen capture software and my Windows XP VM that I have up. Now, Windows XP I'm using just because it's very ubiquitous, and there's very few changes between Windows XP, Vista, and Windows 7, which are the three most common operating systems on PCs today. So let's get started with the tutorial here. Here I have my Windows XP desktop in a VM, and I'm going to click on Start menu. Now what I'm going to be doing first is specifying a static IP address for this computer. Now I'll tell you why later. Just right click on Network Places, Properties. There's your local area network connection, and properties for that. Go to TCP/IP, Properties. Use the following IP address. Now keep it within the subnet that it's in. So 192.168.1 dot. Let's go for 253 because it's out of the pool and everything, and I'm guaranteed nothing's using it. 192.168.1 dot. Now, for standard routers, this would be 1.1 or 0.1, just for the default gateway, in case you didn't know that. But mine is 254. And then you have to specify the DNS address. Now, normally, if the computer has a router, you just specify the IP address of the router, and it'll handle DNS that way. So let's go 192.168.1.254. Okay. Now this thing is all set up with a static IP address. Now we configure this thing for remote desktop. So click, right click, Properties, Remote. Now this is checked, but it's not necessary in order to have remote access to your aunt's computer. All we need is this box right here checked, and then this box will pop up and warn you that some local accounts might not have passwords and yada yada yada. Just make sure that you have an account on the local computer that you can access that has a strong password, because this is a gaping security hole. This is like Titanic hitting the iceberg security hole. I'll just hit OK to commit it, and it's pretty uneventful. This computer is now set up for remote desktop. Now, the next step in order to have remote access to your aunt's computer is to configure the router. Now, if your aunt does not have a router, you're in luck. That is by far easier to configure. if your aunt does not have a router, skip this next step and ignore what I say for the next, I don't know, minute. Configuring the router, I'm not going to go into a whole lot because I don't know what model router your aunt might have. All I can say is just make sure that you can forward port 3389, that's UDP and TCP, port 3389 to the IP address that you just specified for your aunt's computer. And the next step beyond that is to have your aunt go to whatismyip.com. That will say in big, bold letters what her IP address is so that you can access it over the interwebs. And beyond that, I think we're done. And I hope that's a really good starting point, and I wish you the best of luck talking on the phone with your aunt, trying to get her to do all this stuff. You're probably better off just making the trip across state and saving yourself some frustration. Check back every week for more Ask a Sysadmin.
Piss him off and you'll be fired by tomorrow morn. 'Cause he's the guy who knows that you've been surfing porn. So make sure you stay nice to your system administrator. Thanks a lot, you guys. My name's Wes.